If you've ever wondered what the love child of an illicit affair between a Porsche Panamara and a Volkswagen Beetle might look like, I'm pretty sure the car behind me is very close to it. This is the GWM Ora Sport, and it's a sleek, streamlined, all-electric coupe that's under strong consideration for the Australian market. Overseas, it's called the Lightning Cat, but unfortunately we don't get such a cool name here, and it's under the Ora Electric sub-brand, which sits under the GWM banner. And Ora is actually an acronym for open, reliable and alternative, and let me tell you, having a look at it behind me, they've got the alternative part down pat. Let's check it out. Now, it's worth noting before we get into it that this isn't actually a production car, it's a pre-production car, so some of the final details might change if it does make it to Australia, but just keep that in mind. And there should be two variants available, and that's the single motor front wheel drive variant and the dual motor all-wheel drive variant. The latter can actually do the 0 to 100 km/h sprint in just 4.3 seconds, but this is the single motor variant, which is slightly less powerful. You hear it just did a very interesting, almost computer startup noise, which is what happens when it locks and unlocks. I'll give you a demo now. So I'll give it an unlock and a lock. Kind of sounds like when you started your laptop up in the early 2000s, but it has obviously a very sleek, sporty look. One thing I'm not loving, and I'll be honest with you, is the wheels here. So I find that this is, I don't know why, it's giving me the ick, this design. Let me know if you feel the same way. It's unique, I'll give it that, but for me, I think I'd be swapping these out for something a little less, unique. Check this out, how epic is this massive glass roof all the way to the back here. It looks really visually impactful, it's super cool. And on top of playing that laptop startup noise when you lock and unlock, it also does something very nifty, and I'll show you when I unlock the car. Look at this, spoiler. Hey, to make you go super fast and make you look super cool. If I open the boot up as well here, I've just got to find out how to open it. Oh, this is why I never should do this stuff on camera. I should practice it first, but there you go. Power tailgate opens up to a boot. We've got a tarpaulin in there at the moment, but you can see it's not huge. It's quite shallow in height, but it actually goes back quite far. So you could probably fit a fair amount of stuff there on its side as well. Let's hop in and take a look because I want to check it out, but also it's starting to pour rain. So you might be struggling to hear me over the rain, and for that I apologize. It's a thunderstorm out here, but thankfully I'm in the very comfortable, very plush interior of the GWM Ora Sport. So these seats are kind of sport bucket inspired, and they're heated, cooled, all the rest. They're massage seats as well, which is cool. This screen isn't huge, but you know, it's nice and crisp and bright and well positioned. On top of that, it plays a very cool startup animation when you get in. So it plays a footage of a little goldfish swimming while a little kitten tries to chase it, which is fun. They're positioning this as a premium car, so it certainly does have a kind of luxury leanings in the cabin. This is a cool, visually striking center console with your key controls there. Not a heap of storage, I will say. Obviously you can put stuff down here, and there's one cup holder here, but not a lot of place for all your trinkets, which is something I personally love. These faux leather seats feel quite nice actually, and then you've got this kind of fake suede finish as well on the dash, which looks great. Doesn't feel amazing, but it does the job. And of course, my favorite thing in this car is this epic glass roof, which is really well tinted. So you're not going to get too hot, I don't think. I mean, I'd have to test it out on a hot day, and sadly, this is not that. But I'm pretty impressed with this roof. It looks epic. I'm in the back seat of the Ora Sport, and please spare a thought for our lovely cameraman who is absolutely copying it. It is pouring rain, so apologies again for the audio. But back here, I've actually got a solid amount of room. I wouldn't say it's a huge back seat. Certainly if you're taller, you might find that your head comes into contact with that glass roof. Knee room isn't too bad, but toe room is not great. There's not much wiggle room for my little toes down here, so the seats feel quite low to the floor. Otherwise, the floor is nice and flat, so even if you're in the middle seat, you'd be pretty comfortable. You've got ISO fixed points on each of the outboard seats for your child seat if you need to use one. Couple of air vents in the middle here, which is fantastic. A couple of USB ports, not USB-C ports, but USB ports, so that's good for old school people like me who haven't updated their cable yet. A couple of mat pockets in the back of the seats and some door bins. All in all, it's a comfortable space. I wouldn't say it's super accommodating, but having a look at the car from the exterior with that swoopy roofline, I kind of anticipated that would be the case. Earlier in the day and in much better weather, I had the chance to take a brief drive around a closed circuit in the pre-production left-hand drive GWM Ora Sport with single motor and front-wheel drive powertrain. Here are some of my very early first impressions. So I'm behind the wheel of the Ora Sport. The cool thing about this car is that it's already on. I don't have to do anything except put my seatbelt on, which is very important. So I won't let you drive if you don't have your seatbelt on. Safety first. And then you've got your gear shifter on the indicator stalk here on the right-hand side as well, much like you would in a Mercedes. Shift it into drive, and then let's hit the road, ready to go. So it's a quite nice moderate takeoff in this car. Obviously you've got that nice electric feel, but it's quite measured in its delivery of power as well. So it's not super torquey off the line. It's sort of friendly to anyone who's new to EVs, which is nice, kind of ease you into the experience. So this isn't a production car, it's a production spec car, and everything on the menu is in Mandarin, so I'm not going to pretend to say that I know what any of it means, but there is a one-pedal drive setting in this car, which means theoretically you can drive it using only the accelerator, so put your foot on the throttle to get going and then just pull it off gently to come to a stop. We have tried to turn it on. We're not actually sure if it is on. I can give it a little test now. Oh yeah. It is. So it's quite a gradual, it's not super dramatic like it might be in other electric cars you've driven. It sort of eases off nicely. We're traveling at over 90 kilometers an hour, so it's quite moderate and slow in kicking in that regenerative braking feel, which is what you want, I think. You don't want a dramatic slowdown when you're going at high speeds like this. And the steering feel is really nicely weighted to the car. It's quite direct actually in its response. It's lovely. So I can see that handling some sharper bends in this car will be quite enjoyable. Visibility is interesting, I would say. The rear windshield is kind of quite big, but it's really sloped and not super high. So I can see everything that's behind me, and it's pretty impressive for something that looks a little bit like a sedan really. And then good well-sized side mirrors all around as well. So I do feel like I have a good sense of everything that's around me, and of course there are cameras as well to really add to your overall visibility. Now I can feel the lane keep kicking in a little bit here, so it's nudging me sort of over and steering, doing a fair bit of the steering as well. So it's got lane centering, I believe, which is pretty cool. So I feel like it's handling this fairly sharp bend very well. It's really taking over, really. So you've got a fair few controls within easy reach just here on the kind of raised center console. So you've got your fan speed, temperature management as well, and drive mode button, and it's all fairly easy to reach. It's quite a unique layout, I will say, but I enjoy it. And obviously as well, we're in a left-hand drive car too, so that's making things a little bit more confusing for me. I've been shifting in and out of left-hand drive and right-hand drive all day. And you've also got on this car, once you really put your foot down, a bit of fake engine noise, which I'll try and test in a minute once we're on a bit of straight section of road. But obviously seeing a few cars, electric cars, come through the market with that setting available. I'm still not sure how I feel about it, if I'm being honest. I think it's probably a nice to have option, and it's certainly a good thing to be able to turn off. So oh, okay, it's quite measured. It's not dramatic. It's not too try hard. It actually sounds pretty authentic if you ask me. So I don't think anyone who's not aware this is electric would be fooled that it's a full petrol car, but it's doing a nice job of playing the part, I suppose. Right, I'm going to put my foot down, go up to 100 here. Hey! It does. My companion in the car just said it puts a smile on your face, and I've got to say it does. It sort of makes you feel like you're a race car driver for a very brief moment before you remember you're definitely not, or at least in my case I'm definitely not. So that's a bit of a fun factor sort of addition there, I think, for people who maybe miss internal combustion engines and aren't ready to say goodbye just yet. Got a digital speedo right here in the digital driver display in front of me, which is sort of broken up into 3 little circle separate displays, so that's handy as well, and a bit of a trip computer on the right too, and your battery capacity on the left as well. It feels, you know, quick, but not too quick, which is good for someone like me. I'm not exactly a speed demon, so I find sometimes other electric cars make me feel sick when you put your foot down, but this is kind of a little bit more gradual and even-handed in its delivery of power and torque, which I think is a nice thing. But then if you really put your foot down, of course you get that fake engine noise, but you also get a really great acceleration response as well. It also rides really nicely. I'm on some dirt roads at the moment, and for a car that's pretty low to the ground and a sedan and not an off-road vehicle. It's doing a really nice job of handling these roads. I feel really stable, nice and settled as well, and even over some sort of bigger bumps and lumps, it sort of retains its composure pretty well too, which is something of an accomplishment, I reckon. The indicator's funny. It's a soft touch indicator, so it makes it a satisfying clicking noise, but you don't get that click feel. So it takes a bit of getting used to, but I'm not complaining. I've also got an awesome head-up display as well in my line of sight, which has got a great digital speedo, and I think it's got as well cruise control information too. It's also got a really handy just illustration of 2 lines either side for your lane keep as well, so it can show you if you're veering a little bit too far to the right or the left, which I do have a tendency to do, I'm afraid, so it's keeping me in check. The steering interference is quite well, it interferes quite a bit, which I think is probably a good thing, but I am quite aware of it as I'm trying to just move between the lanes effortlessly. It's trying to stop me, so let me live, Ora. This screen mounted on the dash here, it isn't huge. It's well sized, but it's probably not as big as the ones you'd find in some rivals. However, it's well positioned, which I think is more important almost than size. So it's not distracting and it's not pulling at your view from the road, but it's also pretty easy to glance down at if you need to. Thanks for watching. To stay up to date with all the latest updates about this car and all things GWM and Ora, stay tuned to our YouTube channel by subscribing and hitting the like button, and of course head to Drive.com.au for more.